The alien plan. Far beyond the stars, in a distant galaxy, there existed a mighty empire. This empire had conquered countless worlds, but it had always dreamed of conquering one in particular, a world known as Earth. The aliens, a powerful race of beings, had observed Earth from afar for many years. They knew that Earth was home to creatures called humans, and from what they had seen, humans were dangerous. They lived on a deathworld, a planet full of life forms that fought for survival every day. To the aliens, Earth seemed like the perfect world to conquer, but they didn't understand the true power of the humans they were about to face. The Empire, led by a cunning and ambitious leader named Zorath, had long heard stories about Earth's fierce inhabitants. Zorath had been watching Earth for years and had decided that now was the time to strike. He had a plan that he believed would make Earth fall under the Empire's control. In the Empire's headquarters, Zorath sat at a large control table, surrounded by his most trusted commanders. They were a cold and calculating species, always looking for ways to expand their power and influence. But they were also very arrogant. They thought that no world was too tough to conquer, especially Earth. After all, what could a bunch of humans do against the advanced technology of the Empire? Earth, Zorath said, his voice echoing through the room. A world of violence and survival. A world that will be perfect for our experiments. We shall abduct their children. They are weak and defenseless, and they will be the key to our success. His plan was simple but dangerous. The aliens would send their ships to Earth, quietly picking off the children and taking them back to their home planet. They believed the children were the key to unlocking the mysteries of the human race. If they could study these children, they could learn how to use their unique abilities and strengths. The aliens also believed that by capturing Earth's children, they could break the spirit of humanity. If they could take away what humans held most dear, their children, then they would have no reason to resist. Zorath's commanders, all eager to show their strength, agreed with the plan. They had no fear of humans. To them, the idea of capturing a few children seemed like an easy task. Their ships were faster and more advanced than anything Earth could dream of. Their weapons were far superior, and they believed that no one would be able to stop them. "We will strike quickly and quietly," Zorath continued, his eyes gleaming with confidence. "We will take them without anyone noticing. Once the children are in our custody, Earth will be ours. Their resistance will crumble, and we will rule this death world." But as Zorath spoke, he failed to see the small, quiet truth that would soon become his downfall. While he focused on the children, he didn't understand the power of the world he was trying to conquer. He didn't know that humans were not just dangerous because of their strength, but because of their resourcefulness, their intelligence, and their deep love for each other. But Zorath was blind to these qualities. He thought he had everything figured out. After all, in his eyes, humans were just another species to be controlled. He was wrong, but he couldn't see it yet. His arrogance would soon lead him to make a fatal mistake, one that would change the course of his empire's plans. The alien fleet, consisting of hundreds of ships, prepared for their first strike. Zorath watched from his control room as the ships began to warp toward Earth, their engines humming with the power of advanced technology. They would land in remote areas, away from the major cities, to ensure that no one would notice their presence. They would move swiftly, take the children, and leave. It would be an operation so quick that no one would be able to stop them. At least, that was the plan. As Zorath sat back in his chair, he felt a strange sense of confidence. It had been so long since his empire had faced any real resistance. He was sure this time would be no different. The humans had no idea what was coming, and he couldn't wait to see their faces when they realized their children were gone. He smiled to himself. It would be a simple victory. But far from the alien fleet, in the quiet corners of Earth, a different kind of plan was already unfolding. A plan that Zorath could never have imagined. The alien empire was about to learn the hard way that Earth's children were not as helpless as they thought. And in their overconfidence, The aliens were about to make the most dangerous mistake of their lives. The first kidnapping attempt. The alien fleet arrived quietly in the night sky, its ships gliding through Earth's atmosphere without making a sound. The people of Earth slept, unaware of the danger that loomed just above them. The aliens had carefully chosen their first target, a small, quiet town far from the major cities. Zorath had decided that the best way to start their mission was to pick off children from the rural areas. The humans here wouldn't expect anything, and the children would be easy to take without anyone noticing. Zorath's ships descended swiftly, landing in the forests just outside the town. Their advanced cloaking technology made them invisible to human radar, ensuring that no one would detect their presence. The aliens moved quickly, sneaking into the town to grab their first targets. A group of children had been playing in a park when the aliens arrived. They were no older than 10 or 12, running and laughing as they enjoyed their evening. The aliens had no idea that these children were about to surprise them in ways they couldn't imagine. They thought the kids would be easy to overpower, just grab them and disappear before anyone had a chance to react. But as the aliens crept forward, the children's sharp senses kicked in. They had grown up in a world full of danger. Every day, they learned how to survive in their harsh environment. Earth's children were not weak. They had an instinct for trouble. They could sense when something was wrong. And tonight, they felt it. One of the children, a boy named Jason, was the first to notice something strange. He had been playing on the swings when he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Looking up, he saw something moving in the trees. Dark shapes, barely visible but enough to make his heart race. He froze, staring at the figures, trying to figure out what they were. His mind raced, and he instinctively called out to his friends. "Get down. Quick," Jason shouted. The others didn't question him. They'd grown up in a world where danger could come at any moment, and they trusted Jason's instincts. They hit the ground immediately, hiding behind bushes and trees. The children were quick and silent, moving like shadows through the park, avoiding detection. The aliens, meanwhile, were completely unaware that their plan had been foiled. They had already snatched a few children, but they didn't notice the others had disappeared into the night. They began loading the children into their ships, believing they had succeeded without a hitch. But something wasn't right. The aliens started hearing strange noises, rustling in the trees, soft footsteps behind them. Suddenly, Jason and the others sprang into action. They had been taught to survive, and now they were putting their skills to use. Jason grabbed a nearby branch and used it to knock over one of the aliens' equipment, causing a loud crash. The aliens turned in surprise, but by the time they reacted, the children were already on the move. The children ran, not toward the town, but deeper into the woods. They knew the terrain. They knew how to use the environment to their advantage. The aliens, much larger and heavier, struggled to keep up. As they tried to chase the children, the kids set up small traps using branches, rocks, and anything they could find. They used their quick thinking to outsmart the aliens at every turn. Jason led the group through the forest, his heart racing. He knew that if they didn't make it to safety soon, the aliens would catch up. But the children didn't stop. They moved like a well-oiled machine, outsmarting the aliens at every corner. One of the aliens finally managed to grab a child, a girl named Lily. But before the alien could get her to the ship, she kicked and screamed, causing such a ruckus that the other children turned around and charged at the alien, using all their strength to free her. They worked together, pulling on the alien's limbs, and with one final push, they knocked it to the ground. The aliens, realizing that they had underestimated these children, called for backup. But by the time reinforcements arrived, the children had already vanished into the forest. The aliens were furious. They had come to Earth with the belief that capturing a few children would be easy, but they quickly realized that the humans were much tougher than they had imagined. Back at their base, Zorath watched the situation unfold on his screens. His face twisted with frustration. How could this happen? He muttered to himself. These humans, these children, they're not as weak as we thought. Zorath immediately ordered his forces to return to the town and try again. He refused to let a few children escape, but as his ships lifted off into the night sky, he couldn't shake the feeling that things were not going according to plan. He had underestimated Earth, and now, for the first time in his career, he wasn't sure what would happen next. The first battle had been lost, but the war was far from over. And the aliens would soon learn that capturing Earth's children was not just a challenge. They had unleashed a force they could never have predicted. The unexpected defense. The aliens were stunned. Their first attempt at abducting children had failed, and it left them wondering what went wrong. Zorath paced back and forth in his control room, his mind racing. How had a group of children, barely older than toddlers, managed to escape their grasp? The failure gnawed at him. Earth, it seemed, wasn't going to be as easy to conquer as they had hoped. But Zorath wasn't one to admit defeat easily. He immediately ordered a second wave of abductions. This time, they would come in greater numbers. Their ships would land not just in one place, but in several locations across Earth. The aliens would overwhelm the humans with their sheer strength and numbers. They had technology far beyond anything Earth could comprehend, and they believed that would be enough to guarantee their success. As the alien fleet moved silently across the planet, Zorath's forces began their operation again, targeting other children from different parts of the world. Their strategy was to separate the children from their parents, making it harder for the humans to respond. They used the cover of night and advanced cloaking technology, hoping to catch the humans off guard. This time, the aliens chose a larger town on the outskirts of a bustling city. They arrived in the dead of night, descending like shadows from the sky. The ships landed silently, and the aliens swiftly began their search for children. They moved in groups, carefully choosing which children to abduct. But once again, they failed to account for one crucial factor: the resourcefulness of Earth's children. At a local school, a group of older kids were having a late-night study session in a building just outside the town center. They were preparing for an important exam, focused on their books when the first alien ship silently landed on the grounds. The children had been warned by Jason and his friends about the dangers of strangers in the night. They had been taught to be cautious, to always keep watch, and to never let their guard down. The moment the first alien stepped onto the school grounds, a girl named Emma spotted the movement through the window. She quickly turned to her friends, signaling them to remain quiet. They moved silently through the hallways, making their way toward the emergency exits. They didn't need to be told what to do. They had learned from the younger kids, from Jason, and the others, how to survive. Emma and her friends ran into the nearby woods, knowing the terrain would give them an advantage. As they made their way through the trees, they used their surroundings to hide, ducking behind rocks and bushes. The aliens tried to follow, but their larger, bulkier bodies had difficulty moving through the dense undergrowth. The children used the forest to their advantage, setting small traps and creating distractions. One of them, Liam, had a flare gun he had found on a camping trip. He fired it into the sky, causing a burst of light that temporarily blinded the aliens. As the aliens stumbled back, trying to regain their vision, the children used this opportunity to escape even further into the woods. By the time the aliens realized what had happened, the children were already gone, hidden deep in the forest. Frustrated, the aliens began to search the area. But the children were well hidden, using the natural landscape to mask their movements. The aliens were quick, but the children were smarter. They used their knowledge of the terrain to outsmart the invaders, dodging capture time and time again. The aliens realized they were facing a far more difficult enemy than they had anticipated. They had underestimated the resilience and cleverness of Earth's children. These weren't the weak, helpless beings they had imagined. These children were survivors, and they fought back with an intensity that surprised even the most battle-hardened aliens. Back on the alien ships, Zorath watched in disbelief. His forces were failing, again and again. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. His plan was foolproof, or so he had thought. But now, as he watched his soldiers struggle, he began to question everything. How could a group of children be so difficult to capture? How could they resist so strongly? The alien leader clenched his fists, his mind working quickly. This couldn't continue. He needed to act faster. He needed a new strategy. But at that moment, he began to realize something crucial. Earth's children weren't the only ones who could fight back. The humans were waking up to the invasion. The children were sending signals, warnings to their families. The adults were starting to realize that something was wrong, and they would soon come looking for their kids. Zorath's overconfidence had clouded his judgment. He had assumed that Earth's children would be easy to abduct, but now he was facing a challenge unlike any he had faced before. Earth's inhabitants, especially the children, were far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. And with every failed attempt, the aliens were losing valuable time. The mistake that dooms them. Zorath, frustrated and more determined than ever, knew he had made a terrible mistake. He had underestimated Earth's children, and now his entire invasion was in jeopardy. His fleet had suffered several embarrassing defeats, and his forces were starting to question his leadership. The human children had proven to be not only resilient but resourceful, qualities that Zorath had never anticipated. Determined to succeed, Zorath gathered his commanders for a meeting. He slammed his fist onto the table, the echo of it reverberating through the room. "We must take more aggressive action," he commanded. "We will capture as many children as possible. We need to break them, to show the humans that their efforts are futile." Zorath's new plan was far more brutal. He ordered his forces to increase their numbers and sweep through Earth with greater intensity. No longer would they sneak around in the shadows. They would invade with overwhelming force. They would abduct children from multiple locations at once, creating confusion and chaos. With the humans distracted by the abductions, Zorath believed he could crush their will to fight. The alien ships deployed to multiple cities around the world. They landed in busy urban areas, parks, schools, and even playgrounds. This time, they weren't as cautious or as careful. They moved in large numbers, abducting children in plain sight, hoping to strike fear into the hearts of Earth's people. But what they failed to account for was that the humans weren't just sitting back anymore. The children had alerted their parents and the local authorities. In cities like New York, London, and Tokyo, the sudden appearance of alien ships caused mass panic. But amidst the chaos, a rallying cry began to form. Humans, adults and children alike, began to come together. News reports showed families searching frantically for their children, while military units began mobilizing to protect civilians. The children who had escaped the aliens' clutches were now sharing their stories, telling their families about the aliens' methods and weakness. They spoke of the alien ship's cloaking technology and the way the aliens had underestimated human intelligence. Soon, the world began to unite. Across the globe, people started to prepare. Scientists began working with military leaders to form a strategy to fight back. The humans weren't going to let their children be taken without a fight. The aliens, meanwhile, were becoming more overconfident. Zorath's new plan had worked in some places, and the aliens thought they were on the brink of victory. But their triumph was short-lived. In their rush to conquer Earth, they had made one huge mistake. They had underestimated the strength of human unity and the fierce love humans had for their children. As the aliens continued to abduct more children, they did not realize that Earth's military had already begun organizing a counteroffensive. The humans were not just sending military forces into the streets. They were now working together, pooling their knowledge and resources. They began to understand the alien technology and quickly devised countermeasures to detect and track the cloaked ships. The world's top scientists, many of them parents themselves, focused all their efforts on finding a way to disrupt the alien technology. Their work was slow at first, but they made a breakthrough. They discovered a way to reverse the cloaking system, rendering the alien ships visible to Earth's tracking systems. It was a game changer. The humans were no longer the helpless targets. They now had a way to fight back. Zorath's confidence began to waver when he saw the first signs of human resistance. As his forces tried to abduct more children, they began to encounter resistance from Earth's military. Human soldiers equipped with advanced tech, developed in secret by Earth's scientists, began to launch attacks on the alien ships. The humans had developed weapons that could damage the cloaking devices, forcing the alien ships into the open. As Zorath's forces tried to retreat, they found themselves surrounded. Earth's military had intercepted their communications and was ready. The aliens, once so sure of their victory, now found themselves on the defensive. The humans were no longer backing down. Back at the alien command center, Zorath watched helplessly as his empire's fleet was pushed back by the coordinated efforts of Earth's military forces. The battle was shifting in favor of the humans, and Zorath could see the inevitable conclusion approaching. His forces, scattered and overextended, were losing ground. The mistake of underestimating Earth's children and the power of human unity was now clear to him. And yet, the worst was yet to come. Zorath, in his desperation, ordered his fleet to launch a full-scale retreat. But it was too late. As his ships tried to escape, they were shot down one by one. Earth's forces had anticipated their every move, and the aliens were trapped. As the last of the alien ships fell from the sky, Zorath stood, staring at the devastation. His empire, once powerful and unchallenged, had fallen to a world of humans who had refused to give up. Earth's children had been the key to their survival. The love, bravery, and resourcefulness that flowed through their veins had sealed the aliens' doom. Zorath had made a fatal mistake, and now there would be no escape. Earth's defenders had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, and the aliens would pay the price for underestimating the power of the human spirit. The turning point. The final battle had arrived, and the aliens, who had once believed Earth was an easy target, now found themselves on the brink of total defeat. The humans had turned the tide, and the overwhelming force the aliens had counted on to crush Earth's resistance had instead become their greatest downfall. Zorath paced back and forth inside his command center, his hands shaking with frustration. His once unstoppable empire was unraveling before his very eyes. The forces he had sent to Earth were retreating, unable to hold back the surge of human resistance. The humans, united and armed with the knowledge they had gathered from the children who had escaped, had now turned their cities into battlefields. The military had begun deploying advanced weapons that countered the alien ships' cloaking and energy shields. The world had mobilized, and Earth's defenders were closing in. Despite all of his efforts, Zorath had no choice but to issue the command to pull back. His forces, scattered and disorganized, were struggling to hold onto any ground. The once sleek and stealthy alien ships had become sitting targets in the face of Earth's advanced weaponry. As human jets and military forces launched attack after attack, Zorath knew his plan was falling apart. But the most devastating blow came when the humans managed to reverse engineer a piece of alien technology, an experimental weapon capable of disabling the cloaking fields entirely. Within hours, Earth's forces had adapted, making it nearly impossible for the remaining alien ships to hide. Every ship that tried to flee was caught and destroyed in midair, and Earth's military began systematically hunting down any remaining invaders. Zorath's final attempt to salvage the invasion was a desperate one. He ordered the remaining ships to launch a full-scale assault on Earth's capital cities, hoping to force the humans into submission. He believed that by targeting the heart of the planet's defenses, he could break their will to fight. But what Zorath failed to realize was that Earth's greatest strength was not in its weapons or technology. It was in its people. The humans were driven by something far greater than technology. They were driven by the fierce love they had for their families and the relentless desire to protect their world. The children, who had sparked the initial resistance, were now part of an unstoppable force that was determined to drive the invaders off their planet. As the final alien ships launched their attack on Earth's capital cities, a wave of human soldiers and civilians rallied together. They didn't hesitate. They fought with everything they had. The streets were filled with chaos, but the humans remained determined. Children, who had once been targets of the invaders, now stood side by side with the adults, wielding whatever tools and weapons they could find. It was a united front, and the aliens quickly realized that they were fighting not just an army, but an entire planet. In the middle of the battle, Jason, Emma, and the other children who had escaped the alien abductions led the charge. They had become symbols of human resilience and defiance. The aliens who had once thought these children were weak, helpless, and easily captured now saw them as the leaders of Earth's resistance. The children knew how to move through the cities, how to outsmart the invaders, and how to inspire the people around them to fight back. They were the heart of Earth's rebellion. Zorath watched the destruction unfold on his screens. He could see his empire crumbling, piece by piece. His forces were in disarray. The humans, the very people he had underestimated, were winning. His ships, once so powerful, were falling from the sky. His commanders were dead or captured. And no matter how many reinforcements he called for, it was clear that Earth had already sealed his doom. The final blow came when a coordinated strike by Earth's forces disabled Zorath's flagship. As the ship plummeted toward the Earth's surface, Zorath knew that his time had come. The once mighty alien leader had been defeated by a force far greater than any technology or strategy. He had been defeated by the spirit of humanity. Zorath's ship crashed into the ground with a massive explosion, sending shockwaves through the surrounding area. The battle was over. The alien invasion had failed. Earth's defenders, led by humans and children alike, had won. The aliens' doom, the alien fleet, broken and scattered, was now a shadow of what it once was. Zorath's command ship had crashed to the ground, and with it, the last remnants of the alien invasion force were wiped out. Earth's skies were clear, the invaders defeated, and the people of Earth had proven that they were not to be underestimated. In the aftermath of the battle, the humans began to rebuild. The cities were damaged, but there was a sense of victory in the air. Earth's defenders, soldiers, civilians, scientists, and even the children, had come together to defeat the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. The victory was not just military. It was a triumph of spirit, of humanity's unbreakable will to protect what mattered most. Jason, Emma, and the other children who had fought so bravely were hailed as heroes. They had led the resistance, inspiring adults and children alike to take a stand. The children who had been targets of the alien invaders had become the symbols of humanity's strength and resilience. They had faced the terrifying unknown, and with courage and resourcefulness, they had turned the tide in favor of their people. The aliens, who had thought they could simply abduct children and break humanity's spirit, had paid the ultimate price for their arrogance. Zorath had underestimated the bond between Earth's people and their children, and in doing so, he had sealed the doom of his entire empire. The remaining alien survivors, those who had managed to escape, knew that their invasion had been a failure. They had lost too much. Earth's military forces were too strong, and humanity's will to fight back was unyielding. Any further attempts to invade would only lead to more destruction. The aliens were forced to retreat to the far reaches of space, leaving Earth behind, a world they would never dare to invade again. The humans had not only defended their planet, they had sent a clear message to the stars. Earth was not a world to be taken lightly. The lesson had been learned, and the cost had been steep. The aliens had come to Earth thinking they could overpower a planet of weak beings, but they had learned too late that humans were not to be underestimated. As the aliens flowed into the darkness of space, the people of Earth turned their focus inward. They mourned their losses, but they also celebrated their hard-earned victory. The children who had been abducted, rescued, and inspired by the bravery of their peers returned to their families, forever changed by the events they had lived through. The world was different now. Earth was no longer just a planet of humans. It was a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope for all those who believed that no matter how dark the sky may seem, the light of humanity would always shine through. As for Zorith, his fate was sealed. His empire had crumbled, his plans destroyed by the very beings he had sought to dominate. The leaders of his empire would never recover from the blow he had dealt them. They would remember Earth and the children they had once underestimated. They would never forget the lesson learned the hard way. Earth had shown them all that no one, not even the mightiest empire in the galaxy, could conquer the spirit of humanity.